Oh, hello. Hi, Eri. How are you doing today?
So wonderful. How are you, Ash?
I'm good, thank you. Thanks for asking. So, Eri, before we start, I usually ask this question to most of my guests about, do you have a favorite quote, something that motivates you, inspires you, you would like to share with our audience?
I do have a quote that I love. If you're familiar with Esther Perel, she's one of my heroes. She's who I want to be when I grow up.
Mm-hmm.
She
Okay.
has this beautiful quote that says, "In your lifetime, you'll be in many different relationships, perhaps with the
Mm-hmm.
same person." And I really love how
Ooh,
that really captures the complexity of evolution in relationships.
great stuff. I think that's quite deep, but again, this podcast about conversations into the deep relationship stuff, right? Great stuff. So I was actually looking into your TED talk, which you have given a couple of I think 2 months back or something.
Yeah, just a few months
um,
ago.
yeah, something about conflict into connections, and it was really inspiring for me. I went through most of it. Would you be able to talk a little bit, touch on it a little bit about how does actually conflict could be converted into connections?
Of course. So this is something I love to geek out on. But I think that most of us didn't learn how to navigate conflict really well, if at all, as children. So what we learned were all these different strategies that are great as children. Like they're all there to protect us. You know, you're probably familiar with a lot of the common strategies of fight, flight, freeze. And the last one is spawning or fixing or people pleasing. So as children, when we don't have a lot of agency, these can work in our favor. But then as we grow up, we take these same strategies with us and they no longer serve us as adults, but we're still trying to make them work. And we
Mm,
don't recognize how much power and autonomy we have now. And so if we just learn the communication skills, we learn how to actually move through and be with our trauma and our trauma responses in a different way, we can actually start healing from the pain that all those protection strategies were put in place to protect us from, but that are now holding us back. So that's a bunch of things to say. Right now, most of the time we get into conflict, especially with our loved ones, it's because the situation that we're in is pushing on a really old wound. One of these core wounds have been with us for so long. And we
mm,
keep thinking that the fight is about what's happening right now with our partner, when actually it's about the old wound. So instead of fighting each other, which is only going to make the wound worse, we have the opportunity to become medicine for each other. And we get to heal those old wounds together if we decide we're going to fight the old patterns together instead of fighting each other. And that can lead to such beautiful connection and a lot of long desired end to conflict.
mm. That's really interesting, and and I do kind of try to take back my guest into their childhood so that I can learn about myself also, because it kind of
Awesome.
connects the dots at some point when you get into deep conversation, understand yourself better, and there's okay, this is happening because of that, or something related to your,
Yeah.
I don't want to call it previous life, but the childhood. Let's stay with that. Great stuff. So Eri, on Relationship Lab podcast, then we try to uncover some of the problems we are facing in this modern world, right?
Yeah.
Um, we have a lot of rising questions around how the relationships in the modern world should or should not work. And one of the most important question comes from the men's side of the relationship is, should love be unconditional? Because what they've been, or maybe what the questions coming to me through different social media platforms is, we don't get loved unconditionally because we are men, and shouldn't it be equally for other side of the spectrum? What are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, so I'm going to remove gender completely because I think most people are sold the same story that love should be unconditional, which is
Mm,
beautiful. And I want to be careful of shoulds. And what I want to say is, for me, just in my journey, so much of what I've discovered is goes back to the heart of what did we learn? How did we learn about love? What was modeled for us? What was taught to us? What did we learn or not learn in school or by our communities? And most of us learned pretty crummy ways of loving. And and pretty crummy ways of receiving love and giving love. So if we don't know
Mm,
how to give love, we don't know how to receive love, but we all are dreaming of this Disney fantasy of riding off into the sunset and having this perfect unconditional love, it's really difficult to actually bring into actualization, to bring into
mm,
reality. And I do believe it's possible. We have to start
yeah.
approaching love in a different perspective. We have to start looking at it as how do we learn the skills to give love in a meaningful way to our partners? How do we learn to receive love and really receive it and let it in instead of protecting ourselves against it or saying, oh no, you shouldn't, or keeping checks and balances? And then I'll go to masculine and feminine energy because we all have masculine and feminine within us. And in general,
Mm,
the masculine is craving freedom and our feminine is craving safety. And so
mm,
to create unconditional love, you have to have a balance of freedom and safety individually in your own life, in your own relationship with yourself, and then with your partner, with your beloved. How do you create that freedom and safety to be together? And that is where the real unconditional love comes from, where you both feel safe to be yourselves and still be loved. You both feel free to be yourselves and still be loved. And this is a big challenge, but one that I do believe is possible to achieve.
mm. That's quite interesting because I don't think so. Anybody has explained me. So you're saying that the masculine energy seek for freedom and the feminine energy seek for security? Is it
Safety,
security or
yeah. And we all
safety?
have masculine and feminine within us. So it's not like
Yes.
men only or women only are this way. So I think we
Yeah.
all want to feel safe and we all want to feel free. And when we have
Mm,
that, it's like, oh, I'm safe to be myself and you're still gonna love
mm,
me? What?
mm.
Amazing. And I'm free and you're free and you're sa we all feel safe. This is amazing, right? It's a very
Yeah.
different approach.
Yeah, I do remember a conversation. So I lived in Edinburgh for a while, and there's a famous cafe there. I don't know if you've visited Edinburgh, um, where Harry Potter was written. So the lady who wrote Harry Potter, she didn't had enough money to heat the house, so she used to go to this cafe because Edinburgh is so cold, and then sit there and used to write it. So I just went there just because I wanted to feel special. Oh, I've been to the cafe where Harry Potter was written, right? And then I went there, and then I was sitting, very old, vintage kind of cafe, and that's where, after ordering some snacks and coffee, I had a conversation with a very insightful gentleman from Edinburgh University. I'm fairly sure that he was one of the professors there, maybe technical, scientific. And then we were talking about the Pride Month, to be honest.
Mhm. Yeah.
And I was like saying, you know what, it's not. I'm like everyone is showing around, and I'm like not habitual of seeing guys with tight pants and things like that. And this you can blame on me because I've been raised in the community where I can't, see that. But I do have a lot of gay friends in my, work and where I live. It's too overwhelming for me at that point of time. It was back in 2013 or etc. That person explained me, you believe it or not, but every man is 14% female. And I was like, how can you say that? You were born either a man or a woman. And that point of time, I wasn't that educated in that particular stream, and that's what triggers when you explain to me like everyone has this kind of two sides into their personality. So digging deep into this one, then, do you think that in the modern world, the concept of this open relationship actually works? I mean, some couples thrive in ethical, non-monogamy relationship, right? While others struggles with jealousy and boundaries. What is your take on that?
Oh, I have so many thoughts on this one. Um, I would just say this. Relationshiping in general, whatever your relationship structure
Hmm.
is complicated because we didn't learn how to love well. So whether you're on single player or multiplayer, it's still challenging. I mean, when
Hmm.
people say, do you think ethical non-monogamy or ENM can work? I'm like, well, do you think monogamy can work?
Mm,
It depends on the people who are coming together. It depends on their traumas. It depends on their communication skills. It depends on their desire to grow and learn together. And it depends on their ability to really have self-actualization and self-awareness and communicate that with their partner. So, I mean, I've seen most of the challenges that I have seen with clients in the ethical non-monogamy space are the same challenges with those in the monogamous space. They just have different flavors. Jealousy
mm,
is a real emotion, doesn't matter how many partners you have.
mm,
So, there's this amazing book called a Jealousy Workbook, and in it, the author talks about how jealousy is like a smoke alarm and how most people have never had theirs tuned properly. So it's like you're cooking in the kitchen and you burn the toast and the smoke alarm is going
mm.
off and the sprinklers are you're like trying to get all the smoke out before the sprinklers come on, right? And the alarm
Yeah.
goes off. And that it doesn't actually help because there's no fire. It's going off too soon. It's too sensitive. And that's where I think most people's jealousy radar is, and they don't know what to do with that. Whereas if
Mm,
you learn that it's a natural emotion and you learn how to be with the emotion and learn to find the wisdom in what it's trying to tell you. All of our emotions want to be in motion and they want to tell us important messages. And most people are
mm,
trying to block them or don't know how to be with their emotions, trying to push them away or are overanalyzing them. So when we can learn to be with our emotions, like jealousy, we can learn what's there for us and then be with it and figure out, is this a real fire? Do I need to be really concerned, or is this just a piece of burned toast? And
mm.
I have the same challenge when I work with clients in a monogamous relationship who feel jealous is the same thing as when I work with people who are ethically non-monogamous and feel jealous.
So it's nothing related to the concept of monogamy or polygamy when it comes to jealousy, I guess. Do you think this notion of marriage? So I've been doing a little bit of digging, and I understand that marriage was not introduced until the early age of religion. So, when religion was introduced to humans, there was a time when the concept of marriage was introduced
Mhm.
after the religion was introduced. Before religion, there was no concept like marriages at all.
Right.
Uh, People used to live close to rivers because that's the good place to agriculture, and then
Yeah.
they used to go
Survive.
out to, yeah, survival hunting for, like, meat. And then there was this concept of, because females were nurturers, they were like more, kid, take, caretakers of small infants, so they used to look forward for somebody who can protect them and provide for them in those early ages of
In many
human,
of the early ages,
yeah,
yes.
era. And then this religion concept came along, which brought this new concept of marriage. But now I go to meet my friends in Central London. I have many friends who have kids together, but they're not married. I have
Mhm.
interviewed a gentleman a couple of weeks back on the show. His daughter lives with her boyfriend in Canada. It's They're from
Uh-huh.
US, and they don't have any kids, but they're not married, but they're planning to have them. His
Mhm.
son is in a relationship where they are not married, but they have like multiple kids. Are we
Mhm.
going back towards where we started?
I think we're in an age where we're just starting. I don't know if we're embracing diversity, but I think we're looking at things in a different perspective. And I think with the amount of technology connecting us with different ways of being, it's really opening up our eyes to what else is possible. And it's connecting people of similar lifestyle choices more easily, right?
Mm,
So in the past, maybe you were one of the minority groups and you felt alone and isolated and weird, right? But now you can find other people who feel it similarly and you can find community and you can build community around this. And I think there's so much diversity in what a family is today and what it looks like. And I didn't there's a lot of research on like what is the proper way to raise children, what is the proper way to have a family. Honestly, the biggest things that I see of creating healthy long-term stability for children is, are you helping them be with their emotions? Are you creating a loving, safe, stable environment for them? And children are very resilient. So if you
mm,
are whatever you create as normal is they will take on as normal. Most of the time, like even in our family. So my husband and I have two children, and we have always been nomads. And shortly after we had our first child, I mean, he was 5 months old, and my husband was offered a TEDx talk also. So we flew to Europe because I was running a conference in Berlin. He was giving a TEDx in Brussels, and we had a baby with us, and
Mm,
we had carry-ons, and we did this thing that everybody said, you can't take a baby on the road like that. And we did it. Not only did we do it, but we had a lot of fun with it, and our
mm,
and our son thrived. And then we had another baby, and the same thing. When he was 5 months old, we were on the road again, and we became a full-time traveling family with a YouTube channel, and two kids under two in a new city or country every 4 to 7 days. And people are like, you can't do that. And our family became known as the Life of A&D family,
mm,
because we wanted to show people that it was possible to travel the world and be parents and have individual lives and do meaningful work in the world and, right? And
mm,
while people were scared that, but it's so hard with kids, I'm like, my kids thrived, and what was normal for them was normal for them, right? Growing up on airplanes was normal for them. Meeting people of different cultures and speaking different languages every other day was normal for them. It still is. So I just challenge people to really look at how, whatever your path is, celebrate that, honor that, and
mm,
do it with as much love and authenticity as possible, while creating safety and a loving, supportive environment to enable kids to really grow up in feeling safe and secure and a part of something. Kids, if you look at Adlerian psychology, kids just want to feel like they belong and that they're contributing to something. So we
mm,
look for ways to really include them, and this is what I think is going to create the most stable, amazing relationships, whatever they look like in the future,
mm.
regardless of family patterning.
Got it, got it. But you touched on a very important point there, that you traveled with your husband while he was giving the TED Talk. And I'm guessing that your direction of future was aligned. Like, is it, is it, should you break up if your goals in life don't align? I mean, like, love
Mm,
might not be enough, right? If one wants kids and the other doesn't, right?
yeah.
And then, or if careers path clashes fundamentally,
Mm.
what should the couple do? They love each other so much that they cannot live without each other. Although, let's say the lady wants the kid, she wants to be at home, be a mother, and the male in the relationship doesn't want any kid because he wants to travel the world, he wants to have the best career in the world. The future looks different for both of
Very
them,
different. Yeah.
but they do love each other.
Yeah. So a couple things on this one. One, people often come to me and say, when do I know that it's time to end the relationship? And
Mm,
that's a really complicated question. One of my favorite resources is actually a book called Too Good to Too Good to Stay, Too Bad to hold on, Too Good to Leave, Too Bad to Stay. It's a really
mm,
lovely book, and it's designed by a therapist who asks 23 questions. And one of the last questions that she asks is, what is your shared vision? Do you have a shared vision? Because this is one of the biggest um, proponents for, will you actually stay together long term? Because when you think about it, and you think about, oh, I'm so in love with this person, you're oftentimes holding an image in your mind of what your future will look like, whether it's in a penthouse in New York together, or it's going to be in a quiet countryside in the mountains, right? You're gonna have
mm,
lots of children, you're gonna have no children, right? You have something in your head, and if your visions are so different from each other, that it doesn't, like, one of you would feel like you'd have to give up who you are to be in this relationship. And you've tried figuring out, is there a sweet spot? Is there negotiation? And there just isn't. You play with it, right?
mm,
But if you play with it and you can't find that, I think most people are really afraid. I think we're sold a story that it has to be all or nothing, right? You're
mm,
either in a romantic partnership or there's nothing. And I would just challenge people to consider doing something that I call a relation shift. And you shift from being romantic partners to something else that actually works for you. Give yourselves permission to create something that may be out of the box. Maybe it's a deep friendship. Maybe it's he wants to be a wonderful uncle that drops in on the kids every once in a while, and he's going to give his blessings to go find somebody who's really passionate about having kids. Who knows? But
Mm,
if we don't have these kind of conversations about, all right, what else is possible, then we'll never know. And most people then feel like they have to sacrifice this beautiful bond that they've built over time because they don't feel like they're compatible. I'm like, you can still be compatible in different ways. There's so many different types of relationships out there. We have to get
mm,
unstuck from we're either partners or we're nothing.
got it. Got it. And if you have this, this is very interesting for me. Can you also uncover a little bit more about this relationship? How does that actually work, and what are the questions you need to answer yourself and the person you're in partnership with to unlock this kind of like new, I don't know, the unicorn of relationship,
Yeah.
struggle you have
Yeah.
in.
Yeah, I'm leaning over because I'm pulling out this book. This is my book. It's my
Okay.
best-selling book called Relationship Agreements. And while this is designed primarily for couples and how you want to be going forward, it's creating your own roadmap instead of taking a canvas with a paint all over it. Now we're taking a blank canvas and say, what do we want to create? Everything from how do we want to handle finances, how do we want to parent, how do we want to travel, how do we want to take care of our health, how do we want to do household chores, right? And you start looking at what are your agreements instead of assumptions or expectations, and you get to create what you desire. Well, if you already know that there's so many wonderful ways that you want to stay connected, you can create your own living relationship agreements within this dynamic and within this bond that you already have, and say, if we could do anything, and it might be weird, but if we could do anything, how would we want to stay connected to each other and support each other in our journeys, even though they're very different visions? And just start playing with that and writing down these different agreements. And there's every chapter has other activities, step by step. Try this out, ask these questions. And if you get to the point where you're like, I definitely want to consciously uncouple, there's a really wonderful book called Conscious Uncoupling. And Catherine Woodward Thomas is an amazing peer of mine. I adore her and I adore her work. And she really helps lead people through this individual journey of self love, of coming to the place of like, I love you and we're not going to stay together. How can we choose to separate without all the drama? Right. And in that separation process, this is where I really encourage people to see if they can create something new. So see if they can create something that really works for them. And there can be a lot of possibilities once you start opening that door and getting creative together.
Mm. I can see that because you see, these are the questions which we try to avoid because
Yes.
you're in love so much. But these are the things actually you should be talking if you're thinking seriously going forward with your partner, isn't it? Great
Yeah.
stuff.
And can I add one more thing on this?
Yeah, sure.
I just want to say that, so much of the time, what I find is super challenging for all of us, myself included, is we're in an experience with someone and we expect our partner, like even though they're sitting right next to us in the same room, we expect our partner to be having the same experience, but they're not. We
Mm,
are in the same room at the same time, but because of our life experiences, we're having different internal things happen, right? And then we'll talk about logistics, we'll talk about the outward stuff, but it's really hard for most people to talk about what's happening inside for me right now and
mm,
learning skills like being able to say, "Hey, I'm noticing," and what are you noticing about your feelings? What are you noticing about your thoughts right now? How do you start to create that safety to be that level of vulnerable with your partner, that level of authentic and transparent? It's really scary for most people because it's so personal. And
mm.
when we start opening up in that level, I think that we can create something super, super magical. And then we don't build up all this pressure of like, they don't really know me because I haven't shared all the inward stuff. So it makes it even easier to have these conversations because you've already practiced having little ones like this.
Got it. Got it. Oh, that's pretty cool actually.
It's
It
awesome.
is actually applicable in the business also because when you're doing the practice, you're actually improving
So much.
your overall output, right, with the business. Oh, cool. So yeah, let's touch a little bit more around the emotional side of it. So some of the listeners of the show reached out to me with this question. So while physical affairs are often seen as more damaging, emotional affairs can create deeper or longer lasting fractures in your relationship, right? Do you think that emotional cheating is worse than physical?
I think they're both cheating. And I think that both happen because we create these dynamics that don't work for people.
Mm, mm,
And there's, if you've ever read Esther, going back to Esther Perel, her book State of Affairs is phenomenal. It's a totally different perspective on affairs and why they happen and what we can do about it. And it really calls into the picture everyone involved, from the person who was cheated upon and the person who did the cheating, and looking at why did this occur. And so much of the time, these instances of infidelity occur because no one the team wasn't acting like a team. The team wasn't creating a safe environment to talk about what was really mattering, what was really churning inside of them. So if
mm,
you're not creating a safe space for both of you to talk about the matters of the heart, eventually we get so confined that somebody may lash out, especially if they have done it before or that was modeled for them as children. And a lot of the times, because of our old wounds, we create these perpetual cycles of, if I saw my mother get cheated on or my father get cheated on, chances are that I will attract somebody who will cheat on me and will continue this pattern because that's what I saw modeled and that's what I'm used to. And it doesn't mean it's right.
mm.
But if we want to break these cycles, whether we are cheaters or we happen to get cheated on more than once, especially, we have to start looking at how do we create the safety and how do we learn great communication skills, because this will be a huge way to stop this from happening. It doesn't matter. Physical cheating, emotional cheating, it's still cheating. It still just hurts. It hurts our soul. It breaks our trust. It creates so much chaos and pain in relationships that we need to learn how to heal from. And that can take a long, long time for both parties if we don't have the tools and we don't have the support.
Indeed, indeed. And that's why, I asked this question because some people have this biases of no, emotional cheating is nothing but you're just sitting with your friend and talking, opening up, being vulnerable in front of them. But why can't you do that with your partner? Do you don't trust them? Or, like, for example, there was an incident where one of my friend, he reached out to me saying, I tried to ask my partner not to dress in a certain way when she was going out. Like, this is difficult in a way because if you've been, they've been together for 9 years, right? They have a daughter. Um, and I would never ask my partner to not to dress something because she never dress really really bad in that sense that you're going out with girls and then dressing in a way that you're attracting bad kind of attention, but that's not a case with everyone, right? Everyone has a different way of dressing and attracting different kind of people. I had no answer for him because
Mm.
I've never felt something like what he was feeling that time. And he was like, you know I'm like, if I advise you, it might feel caring, but control over appearance can signal deeper issues.
Yeah.
What's your thoughts on it?
My thoughts on this are most people notice something that is uncomfortable for them. They have a judgment. And
Mm,
anytime people have a judgment, whether they feel like they're being judged or they notice they're judging someone else, this is when I really, really, really just say, turn it into curiosity. Because most people go and say, and they just share their side, right? And even who knows how he did this, but chances are very high that it was like doing the best he could of, babe, I love you, but could you please just not dress this way when you go out?
mm.
Which she's going to hear probably as controlling.
Yep,
and
yep.
she's going to shut down and be protective, and that's going to lead to potential like resentment. Maybe she won't dress that way, but then she'll be resentful. Maybe she's going to dress that way secretly. Who knows what could happen? And it wasn't because he wasn't trying, but it's because
Mm,
we didn't learn how to communicate in a way that the other person can receive the message. And we didn't learn how to communicate from a vulnerable place. So if he was to do a lot of the work and look at this, the judgment is what we get first. But if we peel back the layers, we're probably going to find he's really scared. and he's scared that maybe she'll get into a bad situation and he really doesn't want to get hurt. Maybe he's scared that somebody else will like take his spot and she will abandon him. Who knows, right? But
Mm,
if you can learn how to lead with vulnerability and invite our partner into the conversation first, that's the first step. Always invite. Hey, babe, there's something on my heart. Would you be open to having a conversation with me about it? And if she
mm,
says yes, great. If she says no, wait till another time. Right?
mm,
Men, women, doesn't matter. And then once they've accepted the invitation, now we've got consent and now they're paying more attention and we can give each other full presence. Don't have your phone out. Don't do this on your way to work. Like you're going to sit and have these beautiful conversations in a place that's going to support you. And you
mm,
lead with vulnerability. Hey, this is kind of hard for me to say. So I'm just noticing, right? I'm noticing that I feel really scared
mm,
and I feel like I don't know what to do. And I don't want to I don't I don't want to do this the wrong way and I'm so afraid of what I'm going to say is going to do it the wrong way. And that right there already has the softness and the vulnerability for her to really want to tune in because it's not about her and her actions, it's about him and his real feelings, which are valid. His feelings
mm,
are valid. And then from there, we get to say the story that we're making up in our heads. What is the story that we're making? I am creating a story in my head that when you dress this way, that you're going to attract attention from men in a way that freaks me out, or that you might get
mm,
hurt, or that somebody
mm.
may do something terrible to you. And that's the story. That's like the monster story there, or the Bollywood story I have in my head, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And what I really need, this is the next part, what I really need is to just be curious with you of like, I want to understand what it means to you. When
Mm,
you can be curious to your partner about what it means to them, it's going to shift so much. And the way you're approaching this is creating so much openness to have real conversations. And maybe you're going to discover that she had no idea that this is just what her and her friends did, and she didn't know this was impacting him so much. Or maybe
mm,
it reminds her of her 20s, and she just wants to relive that again. And it's so important. And for her, it's like, okay, well, how can we take a look at these underlying values and instead of going against each other, how can we create a new game that works for
mm,
us as a couple, where you both get to feel free and safe to be yourselves, but it really supports the couple too? And it doesn't mean she can't dress that way and he wins, or she gets to dress that way and he has to suffer. It's like, what if there's a new game? And we say, okay,
mm,
well, what if, I know where you're going? Or what if, we have a check-in call? Or what if I helped you? What if we created some outfits that you feel really sexy in, that I also feel a little more comfortable in? Like there's so many
mm.
options, but if we don't have those vulnerable conversations about our feelings and the stories we're making up our heads and the meaning it has for us and what we actually need, we're never gonna win. Somebody's always gonna
Mm.
lose, and that just sucks.
That opens up so much. I mean, I wish I could have explained this to my friend like you did right now. This could
Tell them
have
to watch
helped him
this
so.
episode.
Yeah, that's what I'm going to do. Oh my God. Thank you so
And
much,
guess
Ari, for
what?
this. I was like,
Friend, friend who's listening, you can play the redo card. You have my permission, which you didn't need, but now you have full permission to go out and play the redo card and go back to your partner and say, "Babe, I didn't know how to do that. I just learned
mm,
something. Can I try that conversation again with you? Are you open to trying it again?" It
yeah,
can be fun and humorous, and most of the time it brings people closer into connection when you realize, "Oh, could have done this more smoothly, and now I know, so let's try it out."
yeah, yeah, definitely. I mean, this is amazing. Great stuff. Cool. I want to learn more about you, Ari. But before we go to that question, this conversation is going really, really cool. So I want to ask you a personal question. This
Go for it.
question was DM'd to me by one of my friend who is right now she recently got single. She came from Latin America. She is living in London. She started dating a British person for a while. She dated like 6 or 8 months.
Hmm.
She's a photographer, and I don't know what's his profession. And then I think they broke up after 6 months or something.
Hmm.
And then suddenly one day, this guy came back from his visit from Middle East or somewhere, and then he messaged her about You know what? We should get together. I'm having these emotions around. Are you open to have a coffee with me? They went back together. They not just coffee. They like had a brilliant week together and everything. And then suddenly, like Sunday morning, they went out for breakfast.
Mhm.
After having a couple of drinks and having a chat for an hour, he said to her, "You know what? There's something bad happening inside me. I don't think so. This is going to work out." So they started dating, they broke up, they got together, and then they had a good time together. And then suddenly he said that. I think, in my opinion, there is something related to physical world in this whole exercise what happened. I think what's happening here is there's some kind of sense, not from the girl side or the boy side. There's a sense from either of them, I don't know which one, about financial stability there. This is my opinion. It might be completely wrong, but this is what I've analyzed. Do you think dating someone who earns significantly less or more than you, financially imbalanced relationship might introduce power dynamics or resentment? Is that a possibility, or I'm just taking it way in a different direction?
So
You know?
I felt like there were two things going on there. One, we have
Yeah.
this situation, which
Mm,
I don't know his side of the story, and I only know what you
mm.
shared with me at her side. So I don't feel like I have enough of a picture to really know what's going on in
Indeed.
this situation.
Yeah.
Because in any stories that come, there's your truth, there's my truth, and there's what
And then
objectively happened, right?
objectively happen. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that one, not sure. Would love to hear from both of them. So if you
Mm,
guys are listening, please message me. I'd love to hear the whole story. And
sure.
and then in terms of finances, you know, I think a huge discrepancy in finances can work out wonderfully as long as you're transparent about it and decide this is what we both need to feel safe in what we're creating. I have
Mm,
met many different couples who one has is really about creating the financial abundance, and this is they've either done it or they are really on this path, and the other person is more wired for nurturing or for creating a beautiful home or for
mm,
making sure the other partner stays balanced and it stays healthy, right? So they bring a lot of value into how they're being a team player. It just doesn't always look at like finances. The big tricky spot here is with anything that is those big deal breakers, sex, finances, children, religion, we have to have the real conversations. We have to talk
mm,
about, we don't hide it. We talk about what is actually going on for you behind the scenes. One of the first big conversations my husband and I had when we were dating was when we started noticing we're getting starting to get serious. I mean, this is like 1 month in. We're driving, and I remember he's like, in order to go farther with you, I need to have a financial transparency conversation where I learn all about your family of origin around money and your history with money, what your credit score is, what your bank accounts look like, what your debt looks like. And I just want to understand like what you like to spend money on. And I want to share all of mine with you as well, because this is going to tell us a lot about each other's compatibility. And even if we're not matching, what is our plan with this? Like, how would we want to
mm,
handle it? And it was one of the scariest conversations I have ever had, because up to this point, I think maybe I'd told one other person, maybe my dad when I was like 18, like my finances. Otherwise, I'm like, I
mm,
got this. I have an MBA, I'm managing my finances. It was more vulnerable to talk about my money, my relationship with money, than it was for me to talk about sex or
mm,
intimacy. So I think that really leaning into creating transparency and learning these communication skills again around such vulnerable topics, you can create whatever you want, but you need to do so intentionally so you're both happy and you don't feel surprised later on of, I can't believe they didn't make this much and I didn't know, or I thought we had a deal about what was going on, but I didn't really talk about it. As long as you both can agree that this is okay, not even okay, but like great for both of you, beautiful. Just make sure it's agreement.
mm. So it doesn't actually matter if you have a partner who makes significantly more or less than you, until unless you have a proper conversation and what is what are your plans for future if you stick together and you both agree to it,
Yeah.
that is sufficient to move forward. Obviously things will change and you might have redo things later on at some point,
Right.
but at least at this point of time it might be okay.
Yeah. Yeah, it definitely could be. You just need to have those conversations and trust your gut. If in the conversation something doesn't feel right, if you're like, "Oh, no, I really am concerned that if we get together that they're not going to be able to show up in the ways I need them to, and I'm going to be paying for all their gambling habits or their crazy shopping expenses or like they're whatever it may be. Sometimes there's these habits that the other person, like, there are really dangerous patterns and you don't want to take that on.
Mm,
And if that's the case, then trust that and either put systems in place to make sure that they know that, maybe you have separate bank accounts. Maybe, then it's like, okay, well, we have these structures in place, or just trust your gut. It's like, this is not going to work. This is more risk that I'm willing to take on, or more codependency that I'm willing to take on. And from that place you get to make decisions and go through a relationship, and maybe you can be friends or travel buddies, or we go to all the greatest restaurants and we're in the same place at the same time. Wonderful. But we're not going to be lifelong partners sharing a bank accounts.
definitely, definitely. Great. Ari, thank you so much for all these insightful information. Now I want to ask you something personal.
Go for it.
This is my space where I want to understand my guest. I'm eager to learn more about you as a person. Could you take us back to your roots and share with our listeners about your upbringing, your childhood? How did your early experiences shape your journey and eventually led you to become a visionary entrepreneur and person who's helping others in the relationship space? And then, were there any key influences from your family or surroundings that played a significant role in shaping your entrepreneurial spirit?
We're gonna need another 3 hours together, hon. I'll try to
Let's
keep
do
it
it.
short and sweet, but there's so many twists and turns of this story. Highlights I would say I was raised in a very conservative Christian family in the Midwest of the United States, and my
Okay.
parents are leaders in their church. They teach marriage classes, so I saw this focus on love and family very evident for me growing up. And then I just found that I was really drawn and struggled with this relationship between religion and sexuality. And I just couldn't figure out how to make them go together. So
Mm,
I was the good girl by day, but always dating the bad boy. Not even necessarily
mm,
doing anything, but just dating the bad boy. There was some sort of like walk the edge thing. And then I ended up just really like feeling struggle with that, and I decided that when I went to undergrad that I would get a degree in sexual psychology. Learned so much. Really felt like I was wrapping my head around some things that were really interesting for me already. And then decided to, well, I'd say then I got my heart broken. I fell in love for the first time and had my heart very badly broken and really started questioning everything, and my life just changed a lot. So I decided to run off to Boston and have a fun summer job managing a youth hostel where it was just a lot of wild experiences in my early 20s and really fun, but also just not where I wanted to be. So I decided to start applying to business schools, got accepted to the number one international business school in the world, and went there for global management. Loved my experience, studied in 5 countries, but was still really drawn to like what are relationship dynamics, especially in leadership.
mm,
After I finished business school, I got hired into Amazon.com's leadership development program, where only 3 people are accepted every year, and I got to really focus on leadership and how does it show
mm,
up and what creates great leaders. While I was there, it was so fascinating because I became a certified coach on the side. And then as I was working with my executives, I started just more time and trust was established, and they started opening up more to me about their personal lives. I was like,
mm,
I'm like, if you want, like, I'd love to hear more. And what I found is that everyone was lonely. Whether they were single, they were lonely, or they were in partnerships that were just not working out, there was loneliness. So I started asking consent to coach the whole person. And what I found was that when people learn these communication skills, they learn how to tune into what they desire, how to ask for what they want, how to receive what they want, how to have healthy boundaries, right? Then they would come to work with more clarity and drive and focus and happiness, and it would have a ripple effect in their teams. And
Mm,
all of these skills you use in the bedroom, you can use in the boardroom. So it was showing up in how they were developing as leaders, and I loved it. I loved it. And soon I was becoming referred out to executives at Google, Facebook, Microsoft, SpaceX, Relativity, Hollywood actors. I'm like, so by day I'm doing leadership development at Amazon. By night I'm coaching all these incredible leaders. And I thought,
mm,
this is amazing. I want to keep doing this. So I left my job at Amazon, started my own company called Relearn Love, wrote a best-selling book, and started traveling the world, just teaching people and talking about lots of topics around love and relationships and connection. So it's been a wild journey, and when I finished all of that, I I fell in love with this amazing man named Jamin Patel, who also happened to be a coach, author, and speaker. And we
there
both
you
owned
go.
our own companies, and we both felt called to do this work in the world. And we met each other. We're like, "Oh my gosh, are you real? Is this real? Is this happening?" So we decided very quickly to get married and start having kids. And it was, I
Hmm.
mean, our story is literally written about in Chicken Soup for the Soul. Like that's how epic
Mm.
it is. And I won't, that would be another 3 hours at least. But we started having babies and had a YouTube channel and started traveling the world. And, we thought we were just going to do this forever until we got to Bali, Indonesia. And it was
Mm.
the first place on the planet that we both fell in love with. And we decided that we're going to call this home. So we've been raising our two children here in Bali for over 7 years now. And every year we go
Wow.
on speaking tour, except for COVID. Every year we go on speaking tour around the world, taking our kids with us. So in less than 2 weeks from today, I'm hopping on a plane with our two boys, and Jamin's flying to Europe to teach for 3 weeks, and then we're gonna all meet up in Chicago. But I'm gonna go speak in America for in the USA for a couple weeks. He's gonna speak in Europe. We'll meet up in Chicago, and we're gonna have our 10th wedding because every year we tune in and see, do we want to get remarried? We're not committed until death do us part. We're committed so long as we're serving each other's highest good and growth. And this will be our 10th wedding, and it's going to be so beautiful. And it'll be the first time that our families are meeting each other, which is wild.
Awesome. I mean,
Yeah.
I love that you calling it wedding, not wedding anniversary. So it's
No,
amazing.
we literally have a wedding. We literally throw a
Really?
wedding every time.
Okay.
We've been married on top of the world's largest Buddhist temple. We've had an Islamic influenced wedding. We've had a Hindu wedding. We got married on a cruise ship last year over the coast of Turks and Caicos. We had a 65 person rent out an epic venue during COVID in Bali with a Balinese wedding. Before on our fifth wedding. I don't know if you can see this is our fifth wedding.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, so fun. So we literally have another wedding every year if we tune in. And it hasn't always been roses. Like our sixth year was really hard. It was really, really hard. And we weren't sure if we wanted to stay in this relationship or if it was time for
Mm,
relation shift into like co-parenting or something. But we felt
mm,
really called to do some individual work for several months. And then we went with two of our closest friends as witnesses out to this volcano. And we created what we call a relationship death ritual. And we killed off the old version of us to create
mm,
something new. And we didn't know what would happen after that. And once we had released all those old stories and those old patterns and just apologized for what we could take ownership of, we could see each other with new eyes. And we decided to get remarried. And so this will be our 10th wedding this year.
10th wedding. Wow, that's
Yeah.
amazing. That's amazing. Great
Yeah.
stuff. I mean, Eri, I'm enjoying this conversation so much, but unfortunately, we are limited of time. So we have to get into our last section of the episode, which is the lightning round. I've got 6 quickfire questions for you.
Oh
So you
man.
can answer them. If you don't want to answer any of these, just give me a skip and then we can skip to the next one. You
I
ready?
just need to, can I give a caveat? Okay, I just have to warn anybody who's listening that I really believe that love is a choose your own adventure and that there's no one right way to do things as long as people are consenting and have healthy tools. So, with all that in place, fire away.
There you go. Great stuff. Cool. Number one, what are the top 3 strategies in a relationship which both male and female or any two-person are in the relationship has to follow in 2025 to keep the relationship alive and beneficial
Mm,
for both of them?
yeah, learn emotional mastery, Like learn how to be with your
Mhm.
emotions, learn great communication skills, and really bring in gratitude. Gratitude is going to save you and will bring in such softness and repair.
Got it. What book would you recommend to our audience and why?
Ooh, I've recommended so many already. Let's go with Relationship RX, the audiobook version by Stan Tatkins, I believe. And it is incredible around your different attachment styles, but they model out fights of people who are in these different styles and then how you could do it differently. So you can actually hear an example of what it would be like to have a healthier way of connecting.
Got it. Okay. I might add this one into my reading list. Right now, I'm reading The Profit First from Mike. It's more about the business and things, but I guess I need to do that because my finances are not looking good at the moment from the business perspective. So once that's done, I'll put this one into it.
I want to share a quick quote with you
Hmm.
because I think that everything is connected and our relationship with money is very much connected to our relationships with love and relationships with everything in the world. But
Yeah.
one of my business coaches in the past, she asked me once, she's like, if money were your lover, would she want to have sex with you right now? And I was like, oh, no, she would not because I badmouth her when she's not around. And as soon as she comes to visit, I like get rid of her. You know? And so really learning how to change my relationship with money changed so much my relationship with myself and everything around me. So I
Yeah.
keep
Yeah.
going. This is great. Keep listening to this book.
Great stuff. Cool. Thank you so much. What one attribute or characteristic in your mind of a successful relationship?
I'm gonna do two, sorry, but it's really self-awareness and being able to communicate that. Yeah.
Self-awareness and communication. Yeah, I guess that's the most important bits, isn't it? Cool. What's your favorite personal um relationship hack?
Ooh, good question. I would say my favorite relationship hack. I would say there is a tool that I was just working on with my kids actually, and it's learning how to give concise feedback in a loving way. And so there's a really wonderful tool by a therapist that I adore named Terry Real, and he has something called the feedback wheel. And you can learn how to give hard feedback in 4 easy steps. It takes 4 to 8 sentences and you're done. And I already kind of taught them in this episode. So if you want
Mm,
to look into it more, but it's a lot around inviting somebody into a hard conversation, naming how you feel and taking ownership of that, talking about the story you're creating in your head and asking for what you need and staying curious. And that is
mm.
one of the biggest relationship hacks that I think anyone could ever learn.
Cool. That sounds cool. Really good. We might be able to create some kind of formulas for our founders and spread it across. So that's good. Last, oh no, second last. What's your favorite personal productivity habit or tool?
Oh, all of the Google suite.
Okay, you use it
I
every day.
I and ChatGPT, oh my gosh, like I probably at this point in time, AI is my favorite productivity hack. It has
Hmm.
saved me so much time and my team so much time. I mean, if you're not using AI wisely yet, then it is time, especially if you're a business owner. So let's get on that.
Get on that. Great. Last but not least, what's an interesting or fun fact about you that most people don't know?
Hmm. I joined the Air Force ROTC on a dare. And I got a full ride scholarship in the military, and so I was learning how to pilot single engine planes for a portion of my life.
Wow,
Yeah.
that's pretty cool. I've been trying to get my Class A certification done, but
Yes.
procrastination
Yeah, it
always
takes
on the
time.
play.
It takes time and
It will
money.
take time, but
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, a lot of that. So yeah, one day or
One
day one.
day.
There you go.
I love it.
Great. Ari, thank you so much for joining and, joining me and sharing your story, unpacking all these secrets of relationship. People want
My
to get in
pleasure.
touch with you. People want to get, if they have any questions, what's the
Yeah,
best way to reach out to you?
of course. I love supporting people. So you can check out my website, relearnlove.com. You You can also find
Mhm.
me on Instagram, which is at Coach Eri Kardos. And, there's so many ways to get in touch, and I have lots of free options for support. I have lots of programs, and I also do private coaching, and so whatever floats your boat and how we can get you the best tools as quickly as possible in a way that really works for you, that's what we want. So sending everyone a lot of love. Ash, thank you for having me on the Relationship Lab. You are so fun. This was so fun.
Thank you so much for joining us today, and sharing your inspiring journey and the impactful work you're doing. It's been an absolute pleasure having you on
Thank
Relationship
you.
Labs.